Andrew, thank you so much for coming on. How you doing over there?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, so Andrew runs a really awesome talent agency. I'll let you talk about it, but I'm here in Austin, Texas, which is where Prism is headquartered. And before I was doing Prism, I was booking bands. And super shout out to A Giant Dog and Sweet Spirit,
Cool.
uh, definitely a local Austin legend. So have you been? I think Sabrina is the lead singer.
Yes.
She's
So,
incredible. Have you been with them since the beginning?
no, worked with Sabrina and her projects for about 3 years. I
Cool.
was always a big fan when A Giant Dog got signed to Merge. I was always sort of charting their success and seeing what was happening. So when I got the opportunity to work with Sabrina, I was all in. And there's just I love I just love bands who put on an exhilarating live show, and Sabrina is just one of the best live performers out there. And
Yeah.
so we have their tour for their new album, start their US tour. They're in Europe right now, but their US tour that we booked starts in October. The sort of East Coast Midwest leg is in October, and then we do the Western leg in November. So we're staying really busy with them.
Awesome. Well, I had to start off with the shout out to the Austin peeps, but yeah, tell us a little bit more about your agency and how many
Yeah,
bands you book, and maybe even like weave in the story of like how you got
sure.
into this business. Yeah.
So I'm a senior agent at Rocky Road Touring. The agency was started by my wife and business partner, Jody Harper. She started it about, gosh, 13 years ago, around late 2010. I came on board shortly after she launched it. Um, we've just sort of just kind of built the agency brick by brick, and we started out with Peter Murphy from Bauhaus was one of our early clients, which we were able to sort of build a healthy clientele in the sort of goth post-punk world of the sort of cool legacy acts, and also a lot of younger bands that we've taken on in the last few years that are really starting to pop right now. Um, so yeah, it's just one of those things where every day we put our best foot forward, and we've slowly grown, and I just feel great with I feel great about where we are right now as an agency. We've had a really fantastic year. We had an overwhelmingly great tour in the spring with the Sisters of Mercy, and Sisters of Mercy haven't toured America in nearly 20 years. And some promoters were a little hesitant about the band, about what sort of numbers they could do, but we sold out just phenomenal venues like the Salt Shed in Chicago, and ACL Live at the Moody Theater in Austin. We did 2 nights at the Hollywood Palladium, sold out the Masonic in San Francisco, sold out King's Theater in Brooklyn. So just to be able to do that is and have a tour like that, I just feel like is a real testament to what we've built at Rocky Road Touring. And I'm just really proud of what we do. I'm honored to get to work with my wife every day.
Yeah.
Uh, and we're a great team in business and marriage. So it's an interesting dynamic. We have few employees now, so that's really grown. So yeah, I'm just really proud
How
of.
many employees, and yeah,
So
what's the
we have
breakdown of the business, and how
Sure.
many artists do you represent as well? Yeah.
Gosh, I mean, we probably represent over 50 artists at this point, maybe 50 or 60. I haven't counted actually lately, but maybe closer to 60. So we have our employees. We have Laura Starkey in Los Angeles. She does, we've deemed her the queen of Prism. She does Prism, does all of our contracts and itineraries, and keeps up our contacts database. And she just mans Prism all day of 40 hours a week. So she's in Los Angeles. We've got Jack Long in Brooklyn, who's started out as our assistant, but has now grown into being a junior agent and has his own roster and is developing that. Um, and then we have finally Dana McDonald, who was previously the talent buyer at Bowery Electric in New York, but during the pandemic, she decided that she wanted to be an agent and was moving to the UK. She's currently based in Brighton, and we for in the past we have represented artists worldwide. Jody, our CEO, is British and has a lot of connections to Europe and particularly the English music industry. So Dana came on board, and we hired her to take on to book all of Europe and the sort of rest of the world outside of North America. So Dana's doing a great job. She's really built a great roster and has made a ton of great inroads with European promoters. And some artists we're just representing for Europe. Some artists we represent worldwide. So, some artists we just represent for North America. So, we're pretty flexible in that regard. So, but yeah, so it's we're a five person.
What year? Sorry. What year did you start getting booking international? To me, it seems like that probably was that a bit of a jump to go from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we took over Peter Murphy's worldwide. Started representing him worldwide in about 2013. It was the 35-year anniversary of Bauhaus, and we did a handful of Europe dates. I think we did China. We've done a couple shows in China with him. We did an Australian tour. So yeah, that was in 2013. So 10 years ago, we got into the international arena, and it's difficult. It really is. It's just, I'm happy to just kind of focus on North America now and have Dana dealing with Europe because, I mean, the people are fine. It's, I would just say for a US agent booking Europe, there's so much more paperwork involved in booking Europe. You have to invoice for like everything. I mean, literally, like we do so many invoices for our European shows where I don't think we do any invoices for our US shows. Like they literally wanted, like this show in Vienna last year, they literally wanted a scan of our passports so that they could like wire the balance from the show to us. And I'm just, so anyways, it's just the extra red tape and invoicing and paperwork that just sort of, made my head explode in booking Europe. So I'm happy to sort of oversee that and have someone doing the day to day because it's just a lot of paperwork, period. So.
Yeah. Well, it's, it's fascinating to hear about it, but you kind of snuck in booking China, going to China, like, which is obviously different than Europe.
Sure.
And without like making a political statement or trying to be as politically neutral as possible, like seems to be some increasing tensions between, I don't know, China and the world. And the US specifically, like, have you noticed, has booking changed at all in the last 4 or 5 years? Are you still doing shows in China? And like, maybe you haven't noticed it, and that's a positive sign for the world, or, what's been your experience with China specifically?
I don't think many artists period are playing China right now. I feel like China's sort of gone back to sort of being isolated a bit in the live music world. We didn't get any pushback for China. Peter Murphy is very popular in Israel, just because a lot of music from the 80s, like Bauhaus and bands like that, were really popular in Israel. So it was interesting because we had Peter booked on a festival in Poland with Brian Eno, and the next date was in Israel, and Brian Eno and his representative like wrote to us saying that we should cancel our show in Israel, and um, so
Whoa.
yeah, so the answer is everything is more political. We deal with it. I feel like um, yeah, whether you do China or Israel or, some country. I mean, Russia is a perfect example as well. I mean,
Yeah, wow.
we've had some great shows. Again, Peter Murphy has a great following in Russia. We every world tour we always do a Moscow and St. Petersburg date. Um, we have I've personally don't have any issue with booking shows in Russia, and my previous experience has really been good. I mean, the only thing that's tough about doing a show in Russia is that for an American artist, you have to like the visa process to play in Russia is pretty tough. Like you have to go to the Russian embassy, and I believe there's only two Russian embassies in the US, one in LA and one in New York. So the prep and just all of that is really difficult um, for doing a show in Russia. So
Interesting.
yeah. So I mean, again, our shows in China, that was interesting because again, like for British acts, apparently, like in the '80s when Hong Kong was under control of the British, a lot of artists from the UK did play shows in Hong Kong. So
Mm,
again, like Bauhaus and some of these bands from the '80s, they had played in Hong Kong back in the day. And so the promoter in Hong Kong had done that show in the '80s. And so, yeah, there was a lot of crossover there. Um, so yeah, it's everything is different now in that regard, that there is a lot of pushback from activists about doing China or Russia or particularly Israel, and
interesting.
that's a tough thing because I feel like music should be apolitical. Um, I,
Yeah.
I like to be able to get into a space where politics is just a distant thing. So anyways, yeah, I really I try not to get involved politically, and where we book shows, because people are people at the end of the day. They want to see music. I'm not responsible for what my government does, and I don't hold people and I don't hold
Amen.
people in Russia
Yeah.
accountable for what their government does. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, such a juicy
Yeah,
branch of topics. We could talk the whole whatever
sure,
next hour on all those things. Thank you for bringing all that up. I guess like where to even start? I'll
sure.
start with Israel. I guess, just to like show my bias and my
Yeah,
cards, proud Jewish American, been to Israel.
yeah,
I love Israel. I have an affinity. I'm also not blind to the fact that there's like political challenges out there. But I think, Roger Waters criticized Radiohead for playing Israel, and the lead singer of Radiohead, which I'm like blanking on, and gosh, like I'm gonna get canceled for even forgetting the guy's name. But he like help me out. What's his name again?
oh my gosh.
I
Uh,
will come back to
I'll
us.
give it a
Yeah.
sec. Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're both canceled. But he just wrote back and he was like, look, like, I have criticism of what the US, he said exactly what you said. I have criticism of what the US government says, and I still play. You're not, and Roger Waters has criticism of what the US government does. You're not asking him to not play the US government. Sorry,
Yeah,
anywhere in the US, like
of
not
course.
even close.
Of
It's
course.
like, if you want to be apolitical, put your money where your mouth is, and like, where are you going to play then? But if you
Yeah.
want to like, you believe in your message has the power to like impact people, then wouldn't you want to go into the places that are
Yeah.
that need to hear your message? So thank you for the sentiment
Yeah.
of what you said. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it deeply.
And
Yeah.
Israel is a beautiful place. I mean, the beaches are
Yes. Yeah.
spectacular.
Yeah.
People don't realize just how beautiful of a country it is.
Well,
And
and it's like one of the only beacons of democracy in that whole area.
absolutely,
And like, there's a massive gay parade in Tel
absolutely,
Aviv every
yeah,
single year. And
for sure,
if you want to find liberal values anywhere in the region,
yeah,
that's it.
yes, I agree.
Once again, like there's, just like the U.S. government, there's crazy people in there, and I'm no
Yeah,
expert on the Knesset or anything, but
sure.
yeah, thank you for saying what you're saying for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had excellent shows in Israel. My dealings there have been great with various promoters. So yeah, we're willing to book anywhere. I mean, it's been, you know, representing Peter Murphy worldwide has been very interesting because he has a great following in South America. We've done shows in, Uruguay and Paraguay and Argentina and Brazil and Peru and these very exotic places. So it's really been a great opportunity to learn these markets that I never thought I would book a show in Uruguay. So it's been a real eye-opening experience, and I'm happy to do it. And we have Peter Murphy has a new album coming out next year. Trent Reznor's on the record. Two of the guys, Danny Carey from Tool plays drums on it, and it's a spectacular record. So we're really excited to do another loop around the world. Um,
That's
Absolutely.
interesting. Yeah, I guess Russia, and you brought up this whole South America thing. So
Sure.
there's some questions there. But Russia, let me double click on Russia first.
Sure.
So, I feel the same way about Russia, playing Russia that I do about Israel. And I'll
Sure.
just go out there and put my neck on the line and say that as well. I agree with you. Have you had shows in Russia in the last 2 years since the war began?
On the Bauhaus reunion that we were booking pre-COVID, we had booked Bauhaus for a festival in Moscow. It was supposed to happen July 2020. Of course, COVID got in the way of that, and it was never able to be rescheduled because, of course, war broke
Hmm.
out. I don't, from what I understand, I believe I was told that a lot of Russian concert promoters have moved to the European mainland. So I don't believe that artists are playing Russia right now while the war is going on. Uh,
Yeah.
so
So
yeah,
less of a political thing and more of a practicality of like,
absolutely.
yeah, that's super legit. Got it.
And
Yeah.
we were talking to a promoter that does a lot of shows in Eastern Europe, and there are some shows happening in the Ukraine right now. I mean, Kiev has there are
Whoa.
some bands playing Kiev right now. Of course, it's really
Holy
dangerous,
moly.
but
Yeah.
it is happening. There are bands playing in the Ukraine right now. So
Fascinating.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if Russia's doing shows next year and we're booking and we have Peter Murphy on a world tour, then we would love to play Russia. So Peter Murphy's based in Istanbul, Turkey. So
Oh wow. Yeah.
so we're very open to playing countries in that part of the world. Again, Turkey isn't the greatest country in the world when it comes to human rights, but again, it's about the people, and so yeah, we're very open to playing if we can playing in Russia and places like that.
Yeah, interesting. Was he impacted at all by the hurricanes or not the
By the
earthquakes that went down
yeah,
in?
they not too bad. They yeah, their sort of condo apartments building was okay, and I think it was just the lack of electricity. I think people were without electricity for like over a week. So, but yeah, he's okay. So thankfully,
Yeah, that's good to hear.
yeah,
That's good to hear. Well, I have just a warm feeling right now in my body just around your perspective around like, playing where the music is desired to be
yeah,
heard and to give the people what they want and to not punish the people that live there because of the government. And I don't know any way to rebuke that. Like, like that, like, I don't know what the alternative perspective is there. I mean, yeah, I guess we're in a bit of an echo chamber right now. So be curious to hear someone who said, oh, you shouldn't play these places.
Right.
And you should smite the people that like live there instead of the governments. But I can't agree with you more. It's refreshing to hear.
Yeah. We think about I always like to think about the people and get granular about people's day-to-day lives. And I feel like we focus too much on like the geopolitical politics and have that skew our perspective. So anytime this happen, war breaks out, or a country behaves badly, again, it's that's we all know that like a powerful elites run governments, and the people are just trying to get on with their day-to-day lives, and that's what I focus on. So
Wow.
yeah.
Oh man. And I don't know, this is more of like I might as well bust out a joint for this statement, but who really knows what a truly benevolent government structure, looks like, and who are we to judge and, say, hey, like, sometimes there is this black and white, good and evil. But yeah, I mean, that's just on another level. Like even if there is truly an evil, whatever government at play, and once again, who are we to like claim that? Yeah, like do you like the people are oftentimes the biggest victim to that,
Yeah,
and boycotting the people from a beautiful musical experience that could help,
absolutely.
literally could help cultivate change in the
Yeah,
moment. Yeah, I mean, once again, going into the quite literally the joint smoking realm, like there's,
sure.
Bob Marley like ended a civil
Yeah,
war on stage. Like it's at the fundamental level of like why I'm in music is I
yes,
believe in its power, and like
absolutely.
let's not deprive the places that need music.
I completely agree. And seeing a concert or seeing a sporting event, I mean, it's what people live for. And truly we're just we're truly lucky to do what we do. And again, I just being an agent, the most important thing is that you have to put yourself in the shoes of the fan. If I'm a fan of just putting myself in the shoes of a fan for a giant dog, like I think of like, well, what venue would I want to see this band in Chicago? Or, what band would they be awesome to open for, or what band should open for them? So I feel like we're really good at putting ourselves in the shoes of fans, and and just sort of having that be our guiding light about because I mean we have part of our ethos is that the venue is part of the concert, and so that's why our jobs are so important, because when you go to Stubbs or something to see one of your favorite bands, I mean the venue plays such a huge role in it. It's such a part of the show. So yeah, that's how we try and think. And we want people to have an experience that they remember for the rest of their lives. I mean, personally, one of the most exciting times I've felt in my life was I was 14 years old. I was in eighth grade. I was a huge Nirvana fan. This was in 1995. So Kurt Cobain was dead at this point. And this was Foo Fighters' first club tour. And I'd gone out and I bought the Foo Fighters debut album, the week that it came out. I loved the record. I loved Dave Grohl. And they played a venue called Numbers in Houston. Numbers is still around. We do shows there from time to time. And so October of 1995, I got to see Foo Fighters in like a 700 capacity club. And I just remember what it was like lining, me and my friends got there like 2 hours before doors opened. And, we're standing outside the club, and, we're like, it was the 90s. So like, kids don't know what a hacky sack is now. So, we had like the hacky sack.
Or yo-yos.
Yeah, I think we were 14 years old. I think we were probably smoking cigarettes to look cool or something, you know. It was just so I can go back and put myself in that moment and just be like, oh my God, like Dave Grohl is in that building right now. Like I'm about to see my heroes. So it's just uh, those experiences I just will remember for the rest of my life, especially because, you know, if you want to see Foo Fighters in 2023, then you're going to like an NFL stadium to see them. And so this was just, I really try and put myself in the shoes of a fan and figure out what sort of experience I want to have, because I want people to remember the shows that that we put on. And I like reading the comments on Instagram and Facebook being like, oh my God, like that show was, was so memorable. I'll remember that the rest of my life. So that's what we strive for. And that's what, that's the approach we have. So
Yeah, before we move past it, I'm thinking
yeah.
about what you mentioned about like key, like thank you for that. I love that. Just real quick, double click on bands playing Kyiv. Are you just hearing this, or have you personally sent bands to Kyiv yet? I'm just kind of wondering about like,
We
yeah.
never have. We had a few. We've definitely had offers and discussed some shows. I'm trying to remember this. There's the second largest city in the Ukraine. It's I can't remember right now. But anyways, we have discussed shows in the Ukraine, but we've never confirmed
Hmm,
anything.
got it.
Um, there's a promoter in Europe who does a lot of shows in Eastern Europe, and they send out these sort of monthly newsletters that's a sort of report on these markets. So I'm getting that information straight from this sort of European promoter that's like, look, if you
Yeah,
want to book a show in the
totally.
Ukraine right now, if you want to play in Kyiv, this is what to expect. And so yeah, I
When they say that, is there like special accommodations, or is there like disclaimers of risk? And
lots
yeah.
of disclaimers for risk. Yeah, especially
Mm.
um yeah, I think that sometimes the electricity will go out, and some of the, they have power surges,
Oh
and
wow.
yeah, so that's something to contend with. If there was, I think they try and have, I think they tell agents to leave a couple days, like, if the show gets canceled one day, make sure to have the next day as an open day, as an off day in case we need to move it for, for whatever could happen. So yeah, there's plenty of disclaimers and advice on how to go about playing. But uh, there's people, I can, again, putting myself in the shoes of a
Mhm.
23-year-old person in Kyiv. Like, how awesome would it be to go to a club and
It's super punk rock. And
exactly, that would just be an amazing experience. So,
I
um,
think playing Russia would be punk rock too, you know?
absolutely, absolutely, those people need to hear music. So,
Yeah. I could understand someone's willingness to play Kiev over Russia though right now. Like
sure,
even I don't know. Yeah, yeah. I think there's something there without like sending the conversation down political preferences or anything.
sure, sure.
Super fascinating. Well, there's like the war side of things, which is in terms of international play, which is a juicy topic. But you had mentioned South America, and I think with Prism, we work with promoters or venues down there, or promoters that go into South America, or agencies like yourself that do. And like one topic that comes up is like currency conversion, and um, there's been situations where a currency will like inflate or deflate, and the value of the show will change dramatically in between booking it. And have you had any situations like that? And
Absolutely.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. What's like if you have any, if you can speak to it generally, or if you have any specific situations where it's like, oh my gosh, our band's about to get $1 million or something, for $100,000
Um,
guarantee.
so we work with a promoter named Christian Kramer. it's called CK Concerts. He's based in Panama, I believe. But what he does is that he co-promotes each individual territory with a local, like, let's say we're doing Sao Paulo. So he'll co-promote with a local Sao Paulo promoter. And Christian we do all of our negotiations with Christian, and we're paid in US dollars for the whole of the continent. So that's how we structure our deals. We had an instance where, like in 2019, we have a Killing Joke who was opening at a U.S. arena tour for Tool, it was like November of 2019, and we were trying to tack on a South American tour to these dates with Tool, and basically the the offers that Christian Kramer was giving for South America, the numbers, even though they were in US, that the deals were in US dollars, the numbers were just so low because of inflation, and the local currency. From what I understand, say like a promoter in Sao Paulo or Buenos Aires, they have to purchase US dollars on something called the gray market. I couldn't explain exactly what the gray market is, but just purchasing US currency down there, really ebbs and flows. So, so just doing an A and B comparison. So we had done a very successful South American tour with Killing Joke in 2018. When we went back in 2019 to try and do a lot of the same markets, the numbers had just completely gone down. And what Christian was offering us in US dollars was just not doable. Touring South America totally depends on how the local currency is doing. And I am hopeful that in the future, apparently, I don't know if you've heard this, but South America is getting its own currency, like the euro, like Europe has the euro. From what I understand, South America will have like a universal currency for the continent. So I'm hoping that stabilizes the market, because it's just so volatile, and you really do live and die off the currency exchanges in South America. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, I have heard about that too. I was gonna throw out a speculation, but I don't want to get fact checked and have this completely wrong about like what that is. It's not the currency. There's like a team up of a few countries,
hmm
not just South America though. Isn't it outside of South America? Am I thinking of the same thing, or is it specifically like a South American
I'm
specific
not
currency?
sure. I mean, I know like El Salvador is trying to make like Bitcoin its national
Well,
currency or something.
yeah. So I was gonna bring this up. Like it's really funny. Like I have read some Ray Dalio stuff, and Ray Dalio has like popularized this intellectual idea, and it's not just an idea; it's like a pattern matching of what happens to fiat currencies over time, and
Sure.
he believes, and the data shows that like the destination of almost all fiat currencies is hyperinflation or in
Right.
devaluation, and perhaps even going to zero.
Sure.
And it is a curious use case for Bitcoin. It's like there's never, in the past, like we went from like I don't know, the currency of the Ottoman Empire, and then it switched over to like, I don't know, maybe the British pound, and then it switched over to the US dollar. And
Sure.
um, it's a curious case for Bitcoin, because you can't, the
Yeah.
thing about Bitcoin is you can't inflate it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like it's not inflatable, it's not centrally controlled, and maybe some listeners will disagree with my analysis there, but
Yeah.
I hedge my bet on Bitcoin a little bit for this very reason, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I mean, Jody and I have talked about a world where we're booking shows and the deal is based on Bitcoin,
Whoa.
So I don't think
It's
we're
gonna
there.
happen if it hasn't already.
Absolutely. I mean, not to get too, not to have this turn into like an economics podcast, but
Yeah.
I
You can
do.
go there too. It's fine. Yeah.
I feel like, when the US is not the reserve currency in the world, that could be a problem
If
for if, yeah. Uh,
it's
you
funny
know,
you said when. Yeah.
yeah. I see, it seems like it's going there, as particularly that I feel like oil was always, from what I understand, oil was always based in US dollars. And now you can purchase oil from um, Saudi Arabia
Is it the BRICS or something? The
yeah.
BRICS?
I like, yeah, I feel like, yeah, I just, again, not to get,
That's a fascinating thing. People are macroeconomics or people in the macroeconomic realm are paying attention to is this whole like BRICS thing. And
yeah,
I think that's kind of what I was referencing was I was wondering because it's like Brazil and Saudi Arabia and China and yeah, it's something to watch out for. There's no question there. I was excited to see, or it's been a painful experience in the economy of late, but I
sure.
think it is positive to see inflation of the US dollar going down.
Yeah,
Like we're back down to 3% or something. And
sure.
like I've heard this analogy that like the US dollar is like still the most kind of like eligible bachelor in like the
Yeah,
in the like the in a group of bachelors that are not so ideal.
exactly.
I'm trying to
No,
use
no
the
doubt
best
about it. No
analogy.
doubt about it. I
Uh,
mean, I've seen just, with Jody being British and we go to England, like I'm shocked at how like the British pound has fallen. Before I think it was always like 2 to 1, and now British pounds to US dollars. And so, we really have to pay attention to, I mean, I'll just use this, the Canadian dollar. We're doing fewer shows in Canada this year because the Canadian dollar is so weak.
mm,
It was like
mm.
70 cents to a US dollar or something, 65 or 70 cents. So, I mean, the Canadian dollar, I'm shocked that it's gotten to be so low. I mean, again, we always do our deals in North America, uh,
So
you know,
it creates sorry to cut you off real quick. So what you're saying is it creates like the currency can create like the state of the currency can create a challenge where you don't even tour there
right.
anymore because it's just harder if the
Yeah.
local currency is stable or that's yeah, because what do you peg it on then at that point? Back to maybe Bitcoin in the future, but
Yeah.
that's really interesting. Like instability in currency, it
Yeah.
can lead to less concerts happening in a
Absolutely.
region. Mm.
Yeah, because I mean, just to give you an example, I mean, if we have a Toronto date and let's say the Toronto guarantee is like $2,000 more than like what we're getting in Buffalo, and I only have like room for either a Buffalo, New York show or a Toronto show, even though the guarantee in Canadian dollar, like all in all, the money may be a little better in Toronto. It may be easier to do a show to do Buffalo, New York instead of Toronto, just because the money will kind of be the same and it saves bands paying, crossing at the border and doing all of that. So, anyways, it's definitely something we take into account. And yeah, I just feel like the Canadian dollar has been is it's just hard. All of our, it just depends on clients. I mean, some clients of ours like are all about the bottom line and they want, to hit X amount of profit on a tour. So, when I'm dealing with a client like that, then those are definitely the decisions that we weigh about do we go to Canada? Do we have the tour go to Vancouver, or
Mm.
to just sort of do Spokane, do we do a secondary market like Spokane, Washington instead of Vancouver, where, the money may be about the same, but some bands find the border crossings more of a hassle than others. So, everybody's the same, but yeah, it's everybody's different. But
Do you work with Matt in Spokane? Do you know Matt?
um, Matt,
He books
who?
the Spokane Arena. Canada's the best
I
name.
don't. I don't have anybody quite at that level for Spokane, but
Oh,
just
gotcha.
doing I'm drawing a blank on some of the clubs we've done there, but
That's
yeah,
yeah, that's okay. That's cool that there's like a good amount of clubs that play there. Like that's just my
yeah,
biggest awareness is the Spokane Arena and like the theaters that
okay,
they have alongside that. But
yeah,
yeah, I hear you. Not to get too sidetracked. I mean,
sure.
one thing that popped up is I don't know if you've ever read the book like Freakonomics, but it talked about like identifying like macroeconomic trends with like
Sure.
these kind of bizarre indicators. Like they were like, I don't know, talking to like taxi cab drivers. I think they brought up even in the example in the book, like talking to prostitutes about like how well
Mhm.
they're doing, like their business
Sure.
is doing. It's like it's a really funky book.
Yeah,
And I
I've
think
read
one
some of it. Yeah,
yeah, and one as you were saying this, I think like one macroeconomic indicator could be like how many US touring concerts are like going to Canada, and
yeah,
like I think you could glean macroeconomic insights from that type of stuff based off of yeah,
absolutely,
hearing you talk about this. Yeah.
absolutely. And I mean, just trend, just to use an example of the writers and actors strike in Los Angeles. Los Angeles for our shows, and I think across the board. I mean, it's such an important market, and I feel like ticket sales have gotten. There's some of our shows in LA that I thought would be doing better, um, but I just feel like the down like the writers and actors strike is having a downstream effect on the LA economy because you have the cameramen, you have
Mm.
the music supervisors. There are so many people in that film and TV ecosystem that are suffering, and Los Angeles is just um, I feel like the economy as a whole. I was just in LA a couple of weeks ago, and there's a lot of empty retail space. Uh,
Yeah.
I just yeah, it's having an effect. People have less disposable income in Los Angeles right now, and sure, that's a trend across the country where the economy may be slowing down some, but I just feel like particularly in Los Angeles, the writers and actors strike is really having an effect on people's spending habits. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, it's fascinating. Like through our conversation, I've never really thought about, the music industry producing a data set that, helps on you could help you understand like the health of like a solid working class, in
sure,
various in America, outside of it, the health of like a currency. But yeah, that's a fascinating point if you think about like who spends 20, $30 on a concert or whatever, or $100 on a concert. And
sure,
um, a really healthy economy. I think there's like a lot of sold out concerts. Yeah, it's
yeah.
super interesting to think about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I mean, let's face it, I mean, concerts, people have to have disposable income to attend concerts. It's not, we're not a vital source. We're not like a grocery store or something. So, we really it's important for people to have disposable income for these kind of shows. I mean, it was funny. We were laughing earlier in the year that, one of the nights we had Sisters of Mercy sell out the Hollywood Palladium back in May. Down the street, The Cure were playing. They'd sold out Hollywood Bowl, and it was just amazing that all these bands of that era were, had sellout shows in LA the same night. And I was just thinking like, wow, that's so great that there's, 4,000 people that will pay $75 to see Sisters of Mercy at the Palladium, and that there's 16,000 people that are willing to pay X amount of dollars to see The Cure at Hollywood Bowl. And so yeah, we were just laughing that our goal, since we have so many sort of post punk and goth acts, that our goal was to like bankrupt the goth fans this year, and they're going to have to be putting their concerts on a credit card, this year, because we're going to give them so many great shows. And so yeah, it really, but again, I feel like definitely younger people have they're all about the experiences rather than about the material goods, and So that definitely works. Having an experiential economy definitely works in our favor.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, interesting. I mean, there's so many juicy topics to go into, but I know we got a little bit of limited time here. So one thing I've mentioned this to you before, before the podcast, that I thought your perspective on why an artist in their journey could, be at the top of their career and selling out giant shows,
sure,
and maybe they've worked with a larger agency, but they'll decide, you know what, like I actually like the experience of working with a mom and pop shop,
sure,
quite literally
yeah, exactly.
um, with you and your wife. And yeah, what's been your experience there? If you could just kind of pontificate on that for a
Yeah, I
moment, that'd
mean,
be great.
some of our art, I feel like we do really well with some of the artists that have been at William Morris and CAA and are looking for a more personalized experience. Um, I feel that we we're easily reachable. We all the accountability, we have to be accountable because it's all on us. With some of the bigger agencies and how they do shows where there's like a responsible agent, but then you essentially have like the regional agent, that's doing the negotiating and, let's say Phoenix or something. So, there's just a lot of accountability with the mom and pop agencies. Um, we we really take take what we do very seriously because we have to be on top of our game every single day to 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 have credibility, to do good work. So, we don't have the sort of three-letter name behind us where people are going to be like, oh my God, like we have to do what this person says because they work for UTA or something. So it's all it's all on us to do a spectacular job, and that's what we strive to do. And we're available to our clients 365 days a year, even though I don't really want to talk about work on Christmas Eve. But believe me, I have gotten texts on Christmas Eve being like, hey, what about this for next year? So, but, that's just what we do. So, yeah, I feel like, artists that have been with the big agency, they come over to us and we're a breath of fresh air because we can sit there, we can plan. We're again, we don't have, I can't, yeah, not having the backing of like the three-letter agency behind you, I just feel like makes what we do even more real. And just that we have to be so dialed in and good at what we do because it's just, yeah, we don't have, we just don't have that big agency name that sort of, that sort of creates the mystique. It's all real.
Mhm.
There is no window dressing with
Yeah,
this. We have to, again, we just have to be on top of our game every day and deliver for our clients. And
yeah.
we have a really high retention rate with our clients. Of course, some acts are going to come and go. But it's just all about being really dialed into what the artist needs and having we don't take on any act that we don't have a vision for. So, I can't really be taking on all these acts and just throwing them against the wall and seeing what sticks. Like we don't, we're a quality over quantity sort of agency. And it's just really personal what we do. We're a part of a community, we're a part of a scene, multiple scenes, multiple communities. And I just can't sit, in this sort of, I just can't sit in an office in Beverly Hills and, tell, a promoter in Pittsburgh, to like, hey, you do this, or, there will be hell to pay. So, we can't really, we just don't operate like that. And, and again, it's just down to what we bring to the table and how we collaborate with the artists on a daily basis. And I feel like some artists who have been with the big agencies find that refreshing. And there's just, again, it goes back to accountability. And, we're we're accountable for everything we do. I can't blame it on my assistant, or I can't blame it on the regional agent in Arizona that you didn't get to play the venue you wanted. So yeah, I feel like we do really well with the artists who were previously at bigger agencies and want to have a more mom and pop experience. And and I feel like with the younger developing acts, it's tricky because with the younger acts that are really popping off, maybe they would get tempted to go with a bigger agent, where it's like, okay, you've taken us to this point, but I'm going to go with William Morris, who's going to really take me to the next level. That's where I worry the most because,
Mm.
um, younger bands are impressionable. If they want to be an actor someday, or maybe they'd be like, oh, I want to be an author, or I want to be an actor. So maybe CAA is where I need to be and not with, a boutique agent. So that stuff, I feel like it's the younger bands sometimes that keep me up at night, about some of them having big success and jumping to a bigger agency after everything we've
Yeah.
built. And it just goes back to, I try and have a very personal relationship, with our acts, whether, and there's a big age range. We have a handful of acts who are like in their late 60s, but then I deal with people who are 22 years old as well. So it's all about, just figuring out what their needs are. And we've had great success with, I'll just use this band as an example. So, a young band called Twin Tribes, who we've been working with for a few years. They're from the Rio Grande Valley in Texas. They're from McAllen, Brownsville, Texas. And, we've really just built them up, to that they're headlining really great venues, playing festivals. They're playing the Darker Waves Festival in, Huntington Beach in November. They played the Cruel World Festival that Golden Voice did in May at the Rose Bowl. And they have a tour starting today, actually. They're starting a run. So, I've built a really great relationship with them personally, and, taken them from sort of 100 cap venues to now they're, we sold, last December we sold out the El Rey Theater in LA, which was like, 771 sellable capacity. So, it's just bands like that you just really, I've built a great relationship, personal relationship with them, that I feel like they trust what we bring to the table and trust us personally. And I hope I get to work with them for the duration of their career. But it's just one of those things. I feel like boutique agents, when they sort of build a band from scratch, and take them from sort of like 0 to 1,000 capacity venues, there's always a worry that, a bigger agent can come along. But it's part of, it's part of what we do. I've lost bands, I've gained bands, from other agents, and it's definitely, it's hard. It's like a relationship with, it's like a marriage. So yeah, I mean, that's sort of my perspective on what it's like to
Yeah.
be a smaller agent, dealing with the big guys. I just feel like it's all down to your relationship with the act. And, I try to be very conscientious, every day, and do our best work. So
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. And I think a healthy world is a, good balance of businesses of all sides. And just for the sake of like intellectual honesty and,
sure.
hearing and like playing to the other side of it. Like I hear your perspective that like a small emerging band might perceive that someone can come in from the
Yeah,
outside and carry and an unrealistic load and save the
sure.
situation and open up all these doors that aren't going to happen. But like it's a path that's like well trodden, and like and there's probably reason. There's like what do you think the truth is in that, just to kind of strongman the other perspective? And like, when like what does appeal people to the bigger agencies, and not just kind of like the illusion, but like what are some advantages that you think bigger agencies do actually kind of provide? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's the sort of window dressing they can do. I mean, we're based in St. Paul, Minnesota. We work out of our house. So if I were to bring a client, if I were to take them out to the nicest restaurant in St. Paul, Minnesota, that's not going to have the glitz and glamour of being in Beverly Hills and going to the Palm or,
Yeah.
fancy restaurants. So it can definitely, if someone's a sports fan or something, they can go take a meeting at CAA and they'd be like, oh my gosh, there's Patrick Mahomes or something. Like I want to
Yeah.
be on the
Yeah.
same, I want to be with the same agency as Patrick Mahomes. So it's just stuff like that that we can't compete with. And I feel like
Yeah.
it's really just the window dressing aspect of it and the sort of whining and dining that we can never do. And for some artists, it's important that they be able to go to Midtown Manhattan or Beverly Hills to meet with their fancy agent, and they would sort of look down on a mom and pop operation that it's like, hey, I'm in St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm
Yeah.
completely focused on my day to day. I don't have any bullshit of like people, handing me their demo CD, when I go to Starbucks in Hollywood or something. So yeah, I feel like when it gets down to it, having whether you're with a major agency or a boutique agency, the day to day of it is about the same. I just feel like there's just so much window dressing that the majors have, and that they could really woo some artists that have, I again, like somebody pointed out, I think David Bowie was one of the first artists who was like, obviously a great musical artist, but then he like got into acting. And I feel
Hmm.
like some artists have this like, oh, well, if I'm a great musician, then I could also be a great actor. And they're just two completely different disciplines. But
Yeah. Yeah.
somebody at
Yeah.
somebody
That's interesting.
yeah. So somebody at William Morris could be like, hey, you know what? You have a face for the screen. You could do this. And let
Yeah.
me take you over to our film and TV department, and they should meet you as well. So it's just stuff like that I can't compete with. And I'm not trying to
Yeah.
compete.
I see. Yeah.
And all I can
Yeah.
do is be real about what the band is. And it's like, you're a musician. You're not an actor or an author. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I see your perspective there, and like the philosophic kind of differences between a boutique and what a boutique can provide
yeah.
versus, the kind of like, I don't know. And I've had my own journey in my own life of like, I think it's a question of like, part of it is a question of like materialism, and not in like a negative way, but like, yeah, like you said, like Beverly Hills, incredible
Yeah.
restaurants versus your St. Paul living room, which I'm probably seeing right now with the beads, which I
Exactly.
love those doors, yeah, behind you.
Yeah.
And but then your point is like, look, at the end of the day, like do you have someone who cares about you
Yes.
that's getting shit done? Um, what about like relationships? Like, and I'm just trying to like cover all the bases. Like,
Sure.
do you think, if it's pitched to a band that, specifically in music, an agent, high up at William Morris or something, and we'll call it a ABC company,
Sure.
just to
Okay.
be
Okay.
whatever. Yeah,
Sure.
some agent at ABC company can like open doors. Like, what's your counter to that about like why, like,
Well,
does
yeah.
a big agency have an advantage for a boutique, and how do you compete with that
Yeah.
specifically? And yeah,
I don't think so, because I'll just give a perfect example and
yeah,
name names at Live Nation. So we have a fantastic relationship with Jeff Schumann, who is at Live Nation now. He's one of their big players in their festival department. He books When We Were Young Festival in Vegas. He books Sick New World. He books Darker Waves Festival, which is happening in November. we have such a deep relationship with Jeff Schuman because he started out as an Orange County promoter, and he eventually became the talent buyer at the Observatory in Santa Ana, and he was really just a big player in Orange County. So around 2012, 2011, somewhere in there, when Jeff Schuman was just again a small player in Orange County. We were doing an underplay tour with Peter Murphy where he was playing like 200, 300 cap clubs. And we booked a show with Jeff Schuman in Costa Mesa. The venue was called Detroit Bar back then. It's called the Wayfarer now. So, we've had a relationship with Jeff Schuman since he was a small time promoter in Orange County, and now he's risen to being, he and I mean C3 now that it's a part of Live Nation, their festival department is it's got a handful of buyers, but Jeff Schuman, what he's doing with like I said, festivals like Sick New World and When We Were Young, he sort of created this template of these sort of genre festivals. And so I just, use him as an example that we have a fantastic relationship with him. And I know that he likes dealing with boutique agents more than he does with certain agents at CAA and William Morris. Again, we don't have, we're not company men. We don't have, bosses above us, and, we're not beholden to a company. So, when he deals with us, it's, we're straight up.
Yeah,
So
interesting.
again,
Yeah.
yeah, it
So
goes
you can
back
build
to,
relationships and
yeah, we can
and
build
and
a
with your
relationship.
authenticity and your grit. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I love it. That's cool. Yeah.
Exactly. So I just use Jeff Schuman as an example of look, he's one of the biggest festival players in the US music industry, and we have a rock solid relationship with him and have worked with him, from 250 cap clubs to doing, we had the Sisters of Mercy at Sick New World this year, which I have to say, Sick New World is going to be the best and most important rock festival in the US moving forward. It's System of a Down's festival. This was its first year in Las Vegas. It was just amazing. I think there were like
Yeah.
8,000 people there. It was just unbelievable. So again, it's all about relationships. We're gonna do I just we have relationships with people at all levels. Of course, like we're not adept at booking arenas, or don't have a lot of experience
Mm.
booking arenas, but when it comes down to it, we have the relationships with these companies, and I feel like that, we could totally knock that out of the park. I mean, we have booked arenas, some smaller arenas in parts of Europe and everything. So it's not like we've never done it before, but I just feel like we can deliver for our clients at all levels. I mean, we're doing a Sisters of Mercy show next year at Radio City Music Hall,
Yeah.
and we're very excited. And I mean, just again, like I'll just use this person at Live Nation as an example as well. So Brian Smith, who we're working out a show right now at the Greek, we've known Brian worked at the knit, booked the Knitting Factory, he booked the Troubadour, so a lot of these people like at Live Nation and AEG, they've come up in the ranks of clubs. And so we've worked with them for a very long time and have a great working relationship with them. So whether we're booking the Troubadour or we're booking the Greek Theater, we can get it done. And again, I feel
Yeah.
like this all goes back to relationships. So
I love it. Yeah,
yeah,
the authenticity of like, not having like the structure of working at a larger company has its benefits.
sure.
But then it also has its, yeah, there's no one to fall back on. Like, like you're just you're just working with Andrew, and
Yeah,
like Andrew has no excuses.
exactly.
And yeah, and he's married to the founder.
Yeah, yeah. I've
Quite
got support.
literally.
Yeah,
Got some skin in the game.
yeah,
Um, it's a beautiful perspective, and like, I'm always, thank you for like bearing with me with trying to kind of like find the neutrality in the conversation.
sure.
And I'm relatively like agnostic to the industry as a whole, but like I got started working with boutique companies and small venues, and when Prism first launched, it's smaller agencies. And
Sure,
um like one of our goals, one thing that comes to my mind is like, some of the larger agencies can have the scale to like set up some connectivity and systems between, Live Nation or whatever. And
sure,
like, I think one of my goals with Prism is to create more connectivity to the independent industry,
sure.
and to give a level of technology
Yeah,
that a CA might have access to someone like
yeah,
yourself. And if I could just kind of like shamelessly, pry at like how Prism has been for you, and if you
yeah.
feel like it has kind of leveled the playing field a little bit, and if you could talk about that a little bit, that'd be
I love,
great.
yeah, we love working. We love Prism. It's very user friendly. Um, it's getting it's getting easier and easier because more and more venues, independent venues are using it. So, say like, when we get an offer from White Oak Music Hall in Houston, I think we have the button now that sort of, imports the everything, if the agency and the venue both use Prism, it's much easier to sort of get everything in the system. So stuff like that, it's been a real benefit because we do work with a lot of the venues that use Prism. I mean, in Austin, we deal with, Graham Williams in Austin is sort of a promoter that I've always looked up to and respected. I mean, I started going to shows at Emos when I was 16 years old that were booked by Graham. That was in 1997. So, I've always known Graham and again, developed a great relationship with him over the years. And so yeah, just dealing, again, like, yeah, when we get an offer from the Paper Tiger in San Antonio or the Mohawk in Austin, or I think the Empty Bottle in Chicago, I think is using Prism
Mm-hmm.
now. Yeah.
Yep.
We do so many shows with Empty Bottle. So that's just it. That's taken it a step further for us and how easy it is to use Prism because again, it's great when you have the agency and the venue using the same software system. It's seamless. So yeah, again, before we were using Prism, it was all Excel spreadsheets and Microsoft Word documents. And when you get to have like over 50 clients for your roster on your roster, it just gets to be complete. It just gets to be an overload. Our desktops on our computers were just a complete mess until we got on Prism. So yeah, we've used it now for a year, and it's just continued to evolve and to grow. And I love the fact that there's a discussion where I can be like, hey, can we show the walkout potential here on the itinerary? Or it's just been great to deal with your team. Ellie is fantastic, and um, knows her stuff and knows the ins and outs of deal terms and how things are structured. So yeah, it's been a great experience to work with Prism, and I just love the knowledge that your team brings to the table. And again, we've made suggestions that I feel like everything has been implemented of like, hey, if we have this field here, or what if we did this? So yeah, it's been a great, it really, I'd been for years, I'd been on the lookout for a really good software company to use. And when somebody at Prism reached out to us, I played, we did the demo and I looked into it and felt like it was the best software for us. And again, I just feel like venues that use it, it just makes everything really easy and getting everything.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what you're saying is definitely music to my ears. I appreciate it deeply. And like the two parts of what you said that stood out is like the interacting with our team. It's one of the things I'm most proud about. Evolving the product, like we desire, we want to make this thing better and better over time. And it's really cool to hear you talk about the connected show is what we're calling
Yeah.
it, where agencies and promoter, like if you're both using Prism, you can ingest the offer data, ticket scaling, ticket sales, and settlement, and and that's all work in progress, but
Yeah.
that's the infrastructure that we've set up. And that was my dream since day one when I wasn't working with agencies. Like we started Prism for venues and promoters, and my view is like, hey, we're like more of an Airbnb than we are like salesforce.com or whatever, but we have to
Sure.
start off as a salesforce.com
Sure.
to like solve the efficiency challenges for organizations. And over time my
Yeah.
desire was to like provide more and more connectivity.
Sure.
So I was on a conversation recently, and I won't name names, but there's two larger organizations that are working hard at connecting their systems, and and they're having trouble doing it, and it's one big organization and another big organization. But I was like, you can do that today with Prism,
Yeah.
like already. So the fact that you're benefiting from that really like brings joy to my
Absolutely.
heart.
Yeah.
So
And I
glad to
mean,
hear that. Yeah.
yeah, you're doing a great job, and it's a great product. And everything, this business, like every year you have to adapt and learn. So I feel like to have a software system that we're always trying to provide better service to our clients. And so just to have a software system that adapts and grows is really important, because um, yeah, there's just yeah, it's just good to have a software system, again, to have everything in one place. Makes me feel really good. And just I like what you've done, the new feature with the contacts, with the contact database and everything is
Yeah.
really good.
Like relating them to venues and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, those features have been really cool. So yeah, it's and again, just settling shows, doing the settlement after the show happens, that's been really good as well. Because again, we've settled all of our agent reports in the past have all been on Excel spreadsheets, and that works, but
Mm.
it's not as easy as how you can settle shows in Prism and send the artist invoices to get paid. And again, it just getting out of the Excel Microsoft Word world has been refreshing, and to come into Prism and have everything be there is really a weight off our shoulders. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. I mean, part of me just wants to keep you going on Prism, but yeah, thank you so much.
Sure.
I deeply appreciate it. The team's gonna enjoy hearing this as well. But I want to be respectful for your time. Like we're
Sure.
about to fill the allotted time we put out there. I guess I wanted to end with a couple of kind of fun questions.
Okay.
And it's been an awesome conversation. I'm
Yeah,
super
likewise.
appreciative. Yeah. Let's talk about like the mom and pop shop. Like
Yeah.
how like any advice for people starting companies? Should you do it with your spouse? Should you not? How do you make I saw you took a deep breath.
I think it depends on, you know, here's why I think it's good to do it with your spouse, because the music industry can be so volatile. Like if I had a wife who wasn't in the music business along the way, I tell people I get asked to speak at universities in their music business class, and some students will ask me like, "Hey, how old were you, or how long did it take to for you to like really be killing it and making money?" And I tell people, I started making contacts in the music business when I was 14. That was in 1995. I lived mostly a hand to mouth life until I was about 36 years old. I feel like really in the last 6 years, we've made good money. We have a stable life. So having that, being, and doing that for the last, like I said, 13 years with my wife, I feel like it's great because we get to celebrate the victories together. And when we take some hits, whether it's financially, whether we had a tour canceled or this and that, like if I had a spouse who wasn't in the music industry, they could be like, hey, you're not pulling your weight here. Like, come on, like where's your share of the money sort of thing. So, the fact that we are both in this, it's good and bad, because when bad things happen, then it's like there's no, it's not like we have somebody,
Yeah.
another person's income to fall back on. So, but I think all in all, doing this with your spouse, I think it's really special. I mean, we get along really well. We have the same ethos about life and business. So I think it's special because we really get to celebrate the victories together, and
Cool.
we get to, and again, yeah, I would just feel guilty if I had a spouse who wasn't in the music industry, and they'd be like, dude, like, come on, like, bring more to the table here. Um, so yeah, that's one thing, one aspect that I think is very cool about working with your spouse. As far as starting an independent agency, it just is all down to the person. Some people have an entrepreneurial spirit and they want to be able to make their own decisions and go their own way. And if you're that sort of person, then I think running your own business is a great thing. Some people don't want that. Some people like being part of a bigger team. They don't want to, um, they don't want to do it on their own, and that's fine. I mean, this isn't, you know, it's not for everybody. That's for sure. We started for so long; it was just the two of us, and now we have like I said, other agents and an assistant and all of that. So having to oversee people is an adjustment. Um, and But yeah, I just feel like if the people who have an entrepreneurial spirit and they want to go out on a limb and do it themselves, then they should. The people
Yeah.
who want to have a salary and work as part of a larger company, for instance, I'll just use Jody as an example. She was a concert promoter in England for many years, working for big promoters and big company structures, and she preferred that. It was only out of necessity that she started the agency. She was working for a U.S. agency. This was back in like the Obama stimulus around 2010, where they
Mm.
extended unemployment benefits, and so she'd gotten laid off at an agency, and so we were living in New York at the time, and so we had this opportunity where we were going to have, like, basically the first year of the agency, um, unemployment benefits still. So that was really key, that having that year where we were getting unemployment benefits while starting our new company was key. And that Obama stimulus in a lot of ways was a lifesaver for
Mm.
being able to start this agency. So yeah, it just, again, it really comes down to the type of person. It's hard in some ways. It might be easier to be a part of a larger company, but yeah, again, it just comes down to the type of person. So
It's the journey of a lifetime for someone who's entrepreneurial spirited
yeah,
and, yeah, wants to do something specific in the industry.
exactly.
Well, yeah. Well, let me end with kind of a
Okay,
blue sky or green sky question.
sure.
Um, what do you see? What's your like biggest hopes for like the future of the music industry?
Um, let's see. Yeah, that's a hard one. I hope that I mean, again, I don't want to. I think what I would say is that the music industry and the entertainment business has become very political in the last few years. And one thing I would say is that I hope the music business and the entertainment business can get back to being more apolitical and just being about the music. That would be my first hope for the future.
It's a great hope.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I hope that's the thing. It's like the entertainment business has always been difficult. I don't expect it to necessarily get easier. Being an artist has always been difficult.
Yeah.
And I just um, I wish I could say, well, I hope it gets easier for all of us in the future, but it's never going to be.
Yeah.
So all I can
Yeah.
really say is, um, it just goes. I just hope that people can find others to work with that represent their ethos and represent their values. Because at the end of the day, this is a relationship business, and I want to work with clients that I like as
Yeah.
people. And I feel that life is too short. I always say this: life is too short to work with assholes. And
I'm into that.
and I feel
I'm
that
into
like
that.
COVID maybe brought that perspective into being more, where it was like, wow, we've lost our livelihoods for the time being. People were doing a lot of soul searching about what they wanted in their lives. And I've just more and more come back to, I want to work with people I like, clients to be specific. I don't want to be, when you start an agency, you have to take, and you're sort of fighting for an income and, making a name for yourself. We've taken on clients where the people, whether it's the manager or the lead singer, they were assholes. They were, they didn't represent the values that I have. And that was always
Yeah.
a really difficult position to be in. So I feel that it is, um, it's, yeah, to be able to choose the personalities that you work with is more of a privilege. Like again, 10 years ago, I didn't have the privilege of choosing the people that I wanted to work with, whereas now
Yeah.
I do, more so. So that's what I would
And you
hope.
hope that for others in the rest of the industry.
Yeah, exactly. And I hope that for others. I want,
Meets myself included. I
yeah,
that's a beautiful statement. I think like look, life is always even when you do something you love, even when you're working in a super cool industry that's like
sure,
delivering such an like a awesome, like you said, people live for music and we get to
sure.
like help deliver that. Like it's still hard. So to do it with people that are, that are aligned with your ethos and are good
Absolutely.
people like
Yes.
that. Yeah, and great point that it can sometimes that's something that is earned.
Yeah, it is. It
I think we've
absolutely is.
all gone through some weird personalities in our
Yeah,
careers.
absolutely. I mean, when you're starting out, you have to take what you can get, and that means working with some unsavory people. And I've definitely done that before, and I would rather not go back to that. So yeah, I feel like that's what I hope for artists and people on the industry side of things, that we just get to work, because this is a lot. This is a journey. I try and tell people when I speak at colleges and everything that, try and enjoy the journey as hard as that can be sometimes, because I can look back at 10 or 15 years ago and be like, wow, I learned so much from that experience, but at the time it was horrible, to go through that. So that's what I hope for people, is that they can work with like-minded individuals that share their worldview and values, because that makes a world of difference. So
100%.
yeah,
Well, that's a good one to end on.
yeah.
Thank you so much for the awesome conversation
Thank you,
and
Matt.
all
This was
the
great.
really interesting topics we covered. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thanks for having me. And again, you're doing great things with Prism. You have a happy client with us, and
Cool.
we're happy about. We're excited for the future. We have a big 2024 coming up, and that we're working on now, and it's exciting. So,
Cool. Well, wishing you the best of luck, and thank you for the good words.
absolutely. All right, thanks, man.